We are live on your DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. This is Joy News Prime. Our headlines this hour. Contracts for sale. Former CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, Ejenim Boateng Ajayi, barred from holding public office for 10 years. And popular pubs and eateries in Osu here in Accra to shut down tonight as traditional authorities there banned all forms of noise making to allow for the burial of the late paramount chief of the area.
Those pubs that will be playing music and be having fun, so they should give us that due respect.
We'll hear from vendors in the area as the chief commissions a task force to clamp down on persons who flout the ban.
Come here from Eastern region, Western and those stuffs. So if they are saying we shouldn't play maize, and then today, tomorrow, I don't think it will help us.
We'll take you live to Osu. And in business, Ghana Investment Promotion Center boss dreads negative impact of Russia-Ukraine dispute on the Ghanaian economy as it makes a case for international trade and investments.
The worry is more on the global economy than us, and once things like that happen, like the oil prices have gone up, it has an impact on us. The price of consumption of petrol on the market will go up because oil prices have gone up. And I'm not sure government can keep subsidizing and taking that big, taking the big price hike.
I am Blessed Sogan. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Stay for details. Now, former CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, PPA, Ejenim Boateng Ajayi, will not be able to hold public office for the next 10 years. A report issued by the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SRAJ, reveals that the embattled government appointee put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicted with the performance of his public functions as CEO and as a member of the board of PPA. SRAJ has therefore directed Mr. Ajayi to refund to the state an amount of 5.6 million cedis within the next 6 months. The findings were made by SRAJ following a petition submitted by the Ghana Integrity Initiative to the Commission on 4th of October 2019 after the Joy News expose contract for sale. Johnny Sisa Kweku Asante joins us with excerpts, first of all, with the excerpts of the report containing a statement released by the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and we'll also be hearing from the initiative shortly, but let me bring in Kweku. Kweku, first of all, we are learning that the Ghana Integrity Initiative received this report on the 16th of February 2022. First of all, tell us, what does it say about the issues of conflict of interest?
So there are a number of issues that have been raised, just like you said, according to this report from SRAJ and also the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, who have all been raising issues, particularly on this. The report states that on 2 occasions, Mr. Ajayi used his office as CEO of PPA to improperly alter the decision of the board of PPA in favor of TDL, a company which he has personal interest in. And so SRAJ established that Mr. Ajayi and Professor Douglas Boateng, who was chairman of the PPA, both failed to declare their assets and liabilities as required by Chapter 24 of the 1992 Constitution. So this SRAJ report, the findings that have been made, are a confirmation of what the public have known since Manasseh Azuawene aired this documentary about the PPA boss and his activity of selling contracts that come before him to companies that he had himself created. But much of the report actually also dwelled on the unexplained wealth. So there were more than 90 million cedis or in the account of the PPA boss. The SRAJ tried to get him to explain what exactly it was or what exactly he did to be able to come by that amount of money. Right. But he was only able to explain 86 million cedis. And so that is what, like you just said, SRAJ has asked him to refund the remainder of the amount that he was unable to explain under the various rules that has to deal with unexplained wealth. And so Mr. Ajayi will be refunding 5.697 million Ghana cedis to Ghanaian coffers because he was unable to explain to SRAJ what exactly it was that got those money into his account.
So tell us, is that why they've established the issue of abuse of office?
Right. And so, like I was saying earlier, as PPA boss, there were contracts that would come to him for approval, what he did was to use his office to sell those contracts. And so in connivance with, of course, other state actors, what they would do will be to use their office. And he was CEO of PPA. And so he also had another company, TDL, and he was altering decisions so that those decisions will favor his company. And so they sell these contracts to his company so that the company will reap those benefits, which will indirectly go into his pocket. And so this acts of the PPA boss, which of course, bordering on conflicts of interest by he himself sitting on the tender committees and other committees of the Public Procurement Authority and agreeing to give out contracts to companies that he owned without declaring them, Strike found this to be abuse of office, among others.
Kweku, tonight we're also learning about issues relating to the declaration of assets. It appears that Mr. ABAJ has not been compliant.
Right. So as head of PPA, he ought to have declared his office at the time of entering office. But not only him, his board chairman, Douglas Boateng, all failed to declare their assets and liabilities to the Auditor General as provided by Chapter 24 of the 1992 Constitution, and actually the acts that establishes Public Procurement Authority itself. And so this was also a significant finding. And anti-corruption crusaders have been making the point that people who get into public office must declare their wealth, must also declare their liabilities, and so that when they get out of office, it's actually possible to compare what exactly they have been making in office and to judge whether or not they were able to make that amount or the resources they've been able to amass within that reasonable space that they have been in office. And so this Shraj report actually states that ABAJ, together with the board chairman of the Public Procurement Authority at the time, all failed to declare their assets and liabilities.
It appears that on the issue of Douglas, the report established issues of collusion. How about that as well? What's the explanation to that in the report?
Okay, so Douglas Boateng, as board chair, had a certain level of oversight over the activities of Public Procurement Authority. And if you read this report, it almost establishes that he was working together with the PPA boss to do some of the things that have been impugned that our investigation exposed. And so, as board chairman, instead of sitting on some of these committees and making sure that the right things are done, he did not. He colluded with the PPA boss to ensure that some of these funds, some of these contracts are sold to some of the companies that were owned by Mr. ABAJ.
I guess a clear case of dereliction of duty there. But fortunately, we've been joined by Mary Awelana Ada, who's Programs Manager of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Thank you for joining us. We understand that GII is making a fresh demand now after the release of this report for criminal aspects of this case to be fast-tracked, first of all, by the Office of the Special Prosecutor and YOCO. Why are you making these demands?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. Our ask included that if it is established that the former CEO of the Public Procurement Authority was in breach of the law, then for that matter, then there must be the process to initiate some sanctioning or investigation and sanctioning for that issue. And remember that this is not a new request. We are just reiterating the fact that these are processes that have been ongoing. The president in his petition, and when he referred the petition to Shraj, also referred the criminal aspects of the investigation when it comes to corruption and abuse of power to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And then YOCO also took up part of it, particularly referencing the issues around unexplained wealth. And so it's only right that the Ghana Integrity Initiative would want to know the status of the investigations on the criminal issues of this matter when it comes to the OSP and also the YOCO. These are fundamental issues we need to bring clarity to. Now, Shraj has been very consistent with the first and also the second reports. If you remember, on the issue of conflict of interest, That was basically the issues the presidency referred to Shraj on. And we as well in our acts, we demanded 8 different requests to Shraj. And if you look at the findings that have come out, some are consistent with the findings of the first report, which was to the presidency. But in our case, we were very emphatic on the issue of the board, particularly when it comes to their declaration of assets and the CEO. We also demanded that the issues around unexplained wealth be looked into, because in the first instance, we heard that some amounts had gone into his account from the period he took office to when he exited. And so it was only right that the agencies of state declare if these were acquired legally or not. And we are very happy that Shraj has been very concrete in this. And it is based on this finding that the 10-year suspension from public office was put in place, or that decision was taken. And it's supposed to be running concurrently with the decision that was taken for him to not be permitted to occupy public office for 5 years on the issue of conflict of interest.
I've been reading your statement, trying to understand the input of the case you're making at the concluding parts. It appears that ABHA is not the only one you're concerned about as GII. In fact, you want other public officials to be checked. Do you suspect that there are similar cases deep-seated in the public sector?
It is a known fact that we have issues and allegations of corruption coming up on an ongoing basis. And so this is only the platform based on which we are then making our request that whatever the case, we need to be more vigilant. We need to do a lot more as civil society, as investigative journalists, and also as a people, individuals. We need to ensure that we are reporting issues of corruption, because our laws, as they are set out, function. And Shraj has shown that example, not once, not twice. And so it is for us all as a people to ensure that our institutions of state are working. And that is why we make the call that whatever has been decided by Shraj, or the decisions by Shraj, should be, as a matter of agency, seen to be enforced, so that other agencies of state begin to do as much. And then this would not only serve as a deterrent, but also promote the investigative powers and also the prosecutorial and sanctioning powers of our other bodies. It would only be a motivator for them to do more. And it will also serve as a motivator to encourage citizens who see wrongdoing to go forward to report. It is only right that we begin to see a lot more of this happening. And that is why we make that call, that everybody in Ghana should be playing their key roles to ensure that our legal regime is operating and functioning, our institutions are doing their work without fear or favor. And you realize that, let me come again.
Right. Go ahead.
Let me come again to one of the decisions that Shraj took. Perhaps it wasn't what we wanted, but then it's brought clarity to the issue of who declares his assets. Per the Constitution, it says public officers should declare their assets. Public officers within a certain rank. Per the Act 550, it also spells out the same. We have 3 months for the Constitution. The Act talks about 6 months. Who to declare under contention, and Shraj has brought clarity to that.
I'm glad that you're bringing that, and I'm glad that you're bringing that point up. Let me just take your thoughts on it. There are concerns that the problem has got to do with the aspect of transparency, the fact that we're not making the declaration of assets transparent, and that's why we seem to be having this kind of challenge. What's the call of GII really on a possible amendment of this law?
I believe we have made this call severally, and currently there is an ongoing process of a review, and the Office of the Attorney General is currently putting in place the bill again, the issues around declaration is not in doubt, because it says that when a public officer takes office, he should declare his office. Our contention over the years has been with the fact that declarations are not public. There is no verification of same until there is an issue where the competent authority, that is SHRAJ, is allowed, and others like the FIC can be allowed to then go for the declared assets which are sealed and kept in the protection of the Auditor General's office to see what is there. We have a legal regime that is limiting. And so in the revisions or in the bill that is currently being worked again, it started in 2013. Somehow it didn't get to pass. Now it's called the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, and it encapsulates a lot of different things. It deals with the issue around conflict of interest. It expands the issues around unexplained wealth as well. And then the issues around asset declaration is also captured. Even though we are not getting perhaps verification, but it expands the scope a little bit. So with the current scheme of things, we have some leeway where SHRAJ can go for the issues, but then there must be an issue, and that is not best practice. So if you do a review of our legislation against what exists as best practice, we fall short because there is no verification, there's no publication, and there's also no monitoring. Remember, it's not just about assets, it's also about the liabilities of the person.
Right.
And so when there is a contention, we should be able to declare same.
Mariada, I'm grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us here on Joy News Prime. All pubs and restaurants at Osu will be shut down tonight. This is part of a 3-day ban on noise making to allow for the burial and final funeral rites of the late paramount chief of the area, Ni Okoye Kinkadona the 6th. Now, Osu, which is largely referred to as the heart of Accra's high nightlife, is the home to several popular pubs and restaurants which operate deep into the night, but they have to suspend operations at least for the duration of the ban. Manuel Kranting reports.
Traditional chants at the palo of the Osu Manchewi, the seat of the Osu stew. It is nearing the peak of the burial and final funeral rites of the late paramount chief of the town, Ni Okoye Kinkadona the 6th, who passed away months ago. As is the case with funeral ceremonies of many high-ranking chiefs, the Osu Traditional Council has banned all forms of noise making for 3 days as the rites are held. Ni Adote McLean speaks for the Osu stew.
Operating would be disrespecting your father who is gone. And that is why I am saying that those pubs that will be playing music and be having fun, I mean, like you said, it has come to your notice because you've heard it in town that is what is happening. So they should give us that due respect. We would like to have a total peace and a total silence in the community as we send our father, as we send our king, His Royal Majesty DF Ni Okoye Kinkadona the 6th, to his final rest. Today is Friday. What we are telling them is that they should respect us so that we respect them as well. Some will be seized, some will be cautioned and asked to see the custodians of the land in relation to what they had to do to pacify the land.
When Chrisata was having like the video show at Kona Cafe, many people from other places came to meet him because they have never seen him before and all those stuff.
It's vibrant, there's people everywhere, there's something for everybody.
Osu is home to many popular nightclubs, bars and restaurants which come alive at night. This ban will hugely affect their operations. Worse, many of the vendors say they were not aware of the directive.
No. We don't know. We don't know anything about it. Pepper Pub has a big name. Yeah, it's really going to affect us because the whole of last week we went for some break. So we are now coming back to recruit from this Friday till the Kingdom come. But if they are saying we shouldn't play music and we shouldn't do those noisy destiny, music calls people to come to your places, you understand? As you can see here, we sell food, drinks and those stuff. Everything is here. And people normally used to come here from Eastern region, Western and those stuffs. So if they are saying we shouldn't play music, then today, tomorrow, I don't think it will help us.
As now, we already bring the meat. So when the time cut to people to come, when they come, fine. When they don't come, we pack the meat down and the next day that they sell it. It will affect me, but how? Like we know, we can't bring any meat.
The ban, which may manifest in the total closure of these spots, is not very good news. Not only for the vendors, but also drivers of ride-hailing vehicles. Here's one of them.
Yeah, I don't stay here. I bring people all the way from so many places to Osu, and I still come here to pick people from Osu back to their destinations or their various homes. So if you are saying that they shouldn't come to work, that means one way or the other it's going to affect my work. That means if somebody is supposed to come to Osu today to work, for me also to work and get money, that means that person's money has been fall short, and his or her money being fall short has affected my too.
This is the Dankwa Circle, the intersection that welcomes people into the nightlife of Osu. It's afternoon and all the pillars around the circle are decorated with red and black bands indicating the mood in the town. It waits to be seen whether for the first time in a very long time, Osu will be asleep at night. For Joy News, my name is Manuel Kranting.
Let's take you live to Osu and check what's happening now. My colleague Maxwell Agbagba joins us from the Oxford Street. Maxwell, what's the situation currently where you are?
Blessed, here at the Osu Oxford Street, we have been driving on the Oxford Street. We've been here for the past 1 hour monitoring what is happening here, because usually on Fridays it gets busy. We can report that what we've seen here is not full compliance to that directive. What gives it some semblance of compliance is the level of music and how many of the pubs here have actually turned down the volume on their speakers. In fact, usually around this time when you're taking a stroll on the Oxford Street, you'd hear music blaring from loudspeakers from every corner, every angle. But that is absent today. Driving on the Oxford Street, not much of music or noise from the blaring speakers we've heard on the street today. Right behind me is the Lizzie's Container, which is a popular joint here at Oxford Street, directly opposite Papaya here. There we've seen some people getting ready already in the Friday mood, sitting down and sipping some drinks. I spoke to the woman, and she told me that she's not aware of any directive or ban on noise making, but I can report that the sound system here is not at its usual volume. She actually explained to me that they putting out any blaring music. They don't have any blaring music here now because the DJ who plays usually has not yet arrived. So she told me that if he arrives here, it's likely they're going to increase the volume of their sound speakers, and that she's not aware of any directive. A lady who I spoke to who operates an eatery just some meters away from this place mentioned to me that she is aware of the directive, and that is the reason why she has not turn on her sound system here at the Osu Oxford Street. So what we can really report is that really there's no full compliance. I mean, people are going about their normal duties, but the usual heavy congestion that you see around this time is conspicuously missing. We've seen some bit of traffic, but not the usual bumper to bumper traffic that you usually see on a Friday
Lagunba joining us there from Osu. Definitely, we'll keep our eyes on that, try and get you the very latest. In fact, there's also concerns about security arrangements that would bring you all of those updates later. But we will definitely be bringing you that in our subsequent bulletins. This is Joy News Prime. Still to come in business, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center's boss dreads negative impact of Russia-Ukraine dispute on the Ghanaian economy as he makes a case for international trade and investments.
The worry is more on the global economy than us. And once things like that happen, like the oil prices have gone up, it has an impact on us. The price of consumption of petrol on the market will go up because oil prices have gone up. And I'm not sure government can keep subsidizing and taking that big, taking the big price hike.
Yeah, welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aitip. The Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, is dreading the impact of the current Russian-Ukraine invasion on the Ghanaian economy. Crude oil prices yesterday crossed the $100 mark per barrel, a situation that will trigger full price increase at the pumps. Speaking on PM Express edition, the business edition, Mr. Grant said the current development makes a strong case for more internal trade and investment.
Either Russia or Ukraine is a major player in our country. They have in the past. There are investors that have come in, but they are not the major ones. But that notwithstanding, it's still worrying because, there might be areas in which they might necessarily have interest that could help our economy grow. So once there's such a development, and because of that, the doors are shut, we should be worried. But the worry is more on the global economy than us. And once things like that happen, like the oil prices have gone up, it has an impact on us. For us, it's a double-edged sword. We are an exporter as well as the price of consumption of petrol on the market will go up because oil prices have gone up. And I'm not sure government can keep subsidizing and taking that big, taking the big price hikes of a barrel of oil and subsidizing it for petrol. So it's a worrying development.
I want us also to look at even the global connection as you explained earlier on, because we're just coming out of COVID now. And if you read the literature today, the doom that is being talked about in terms of even the global economy is worrying as well. And not just about worry, but it's like, maybe George, this shouldn't have happened this time. Just when things were picking up, even in terms of existing capital that are already in and the rest that we are bringing, now this is happening. It puts more pressure on the economy.
Absolutely.
More pressure on
Absolutely. Not just our economy, but global economies. And as you probably would have read, now many of the major countries are making statements and imposing sanctions on Russia. Russia is a trading partner to many others as well. And once these sanctions happen, then it means that there is some trade activity curtailed.
Now, all pubs and restaurants also will be shut down tonight. If this is part of a 3-day ban on noise making to allow for the burial and final rites of the late paramount chief of the area, Ni Okwe Kinka Dowuna VI, Osu, which is largely referred to as the heart of Accra's nightlife, is home to several popular pubs and restaurants which operate deep into the night. Let's take you live now to the Oxford Street, Osu, and check what's happening now, especially when my colleague Maxwell Agbagba joins us at the Oxford Street currently. So Maxwell, if you could hear me, what can you report at the moment?
Okay, so Charles, we are live on the Osu Oxford Street. So what you can see right now is this gentleman who is announcing that from tomorrow, all the people who own shops here at Osu Oxford Street are not allowed to open their shop.
Police get landed banning abu ye bi ene soldier ko baba bi wo akpele ni shop ni go bi ene pinu bi esa ni mo ko pele wo manche ego ni ki kan ego ni wo kle afu Independence Square wo akle for Independence Square President Baba Jeme, won kwanye fake, bosumani wo abagbele ni moko baba, na ba fe yin allowed.
Okay. Well, essentially, what he's saying is that tomorrow nobody is allowed to open their shops here at the Osu Oxford Street. In fact, here in Osu, he says the final funeral rites for the late paramount chief is tomorrow at the Independence Square, and that nobody's allowed to open. Can you give us details of these directives? So who are those affected?
Monitu woji nine Osu Krote ni tuwo ake woba announcement ake.
No, I mean be ake na many directive na e affect ame. Na many esa na me gbeli your shop.
Yeah, Osu Beni, Osu Sponi. Wono Osu Sponi, Osu Manchego. Iwesa ni
ofane no enu shishi. Si mean be ake na me mo fia esa ni mo
gbele. So gbele in one day pe.
One day pe.
Ocha ba ku pe. Mo bi am bi shop fitanopa. Ahani nyina mu close. Restaurant nyina yembie. Yen close ni nyina, ye close ni nyina. Ye nu ye after Sunday you can open it.
And then swear, and then
the freedom, and then Friday in the achemo. But China, yeah, wickiping the energy. But here, Kono, Ebia, Grombe Shishi, and a year no Suyano. Our Miss Only be a debefa.
A momokoni about Bellish.
We have Amolekea.
Feminine.
Can't go to it. Store of Amole. The police, the Langard, Many Mammy. Langard in here, Clanty. Police in again here too. Wala Muni Baba, Mila Muni Baha Bombo. What can Langard Banina with the Bombo Clanty goes to Moisam? Me, I told Gonja.
Gonja. Oh, you are done. So you just So you just heard from Gonja. So what he's saying. So this is a sound system. They have in this tricycle moving around, informing all shop owners that tomorrow they are not allowed to open their shops. In fact, he has been clarifying that for today they can go about, it's a free day for them, they can go about their normal activities. But tomorrow, which is the day for the funeral of the late paramount chief for this area, nobody's allowed to open your shop. If you open your shop, he says that policemen, and in fact, he mentioned that land guards will be on the streets to enforce the directive for people to make sure that their shops are closed. Many of the people I've been speaking to and interacting here tell me that, I mean, this place is a beehive of activity. Sees a beehive of activity, especially on weekends. You have families coming together, many of them coming to the eateries to spend time, together and all of that. What it means is that the streets of Osu is going to be dead tomorrow. No brisk activity like we usually see on regular days, because the directive is going to be enforced for all shops to remain closed. Charles.
Development, Max, so we're grateful that you could help us with that information from the Oxford Street, where it's quite clear. You could see the information, a van there moving ahead in a local way, giving, notice to, pedestrians and, business owners about the shutdown, the literal shutdown of the entire street of Oxford Street, as well as the entire, business district of Osu ahead of the funeral on Saturday. We shall be keeping a close eye on this, plus the funeral, to give you much more update, especially when we're going to be expecting some security presence along the major streets of Osu. Well, that'll be it for business, but the bulletin continues. I'm Charles Aite.
Thank you for joining us on the spot. I'm Gary L. Smith, and continuing on the trajectory of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, there's an interesting twist. Chelsea Football Club owner Roman Abramovich is Russian, and he has been banned from living in Britain ever again, according to reports. Now, this comes after Russia's full-scale invasion of the Ukraine was also confirmed on Thursday. And the 55-year-old Chelsea owner has not been to the bridge in months. So, how does this affect the Russians' ownership of Chelsea, knowing how popular it is in Ghana? I spoke earlier today with Rob Harris, who is a sports journalist with Associated Press, and he's been breaking all the news involved in sport and this story.
Roman Abramovich has always distanced himself from Vladimir Putin, trying to suggest that he's actually his own person, investments made on his own behalf, despite how his wealth was built up in Russia through the 1990s. There will be an element of concern, particularly obviously amongst Chelsea fans, about if there is any action taken against Roman Abramovich by the British government. Boris Johnson did say in the House of Commons this week the fact that they were starting to sanction Roman Abramovich. He withdrew that statement as not being correct. Abramovich has not had a visa now for a few years to be able to have a working visa in the UK, and he withdrew his application. That was amidst the wider fallout, perceived from the Salisbury poisoning of the former Russian spy in southwest England. He chose to withdraw his renewal of his visa application, and instead he has actually gained Israeli citizenship. He's also sought Portuguese citizenship as well. He has been able to travel back into England in the last year. He was here in October and November. In fact, in November, I actually was with him face-to-face at an event. Quite surprised to even see him in the country, given the issues around his visa, around his travel. But Abramovich, for now, has not been targeted by the British state. He would distance himself from Vladimir Putin in terms of him being his own person. But there will be those questions just about the wider investment in London, perhaps by the Russian oligarchs, and how the wealth was built up. And we've already seen Aeroflot as a Russian state carrier that have been targeted. Other countries have targeted individuals as well. Gazprom executive who was on the board at Schalke in Germany, he was targeted in US sanctions, and he quit the Schalke board in the aftermath of that on Thursday, as well as Schalke dropping their Gazprom logos from their shirts. So it just shows how these decisions will be taken by the state, because really sanctions are the only significant weaponry that the West has, because there's no sense of any military intervention by the West in Ukraine to have a direct armed confrontation with nuclear Russia.
Chelsea fans, your club is in safe hands for now. And as you may have heard in the news, the UK has placed sanctions on a lot of the billionaires from Russia in the UK, but somehow they have spared Roman Abramovich, Alisher Usmanov, who also owns part of Arsenal and Everton, a couple of others. So, Rob Harris mentioned several things that have been done. Let's sum up everything that has been the reaction in the sports world since this story broke. Beginning with some of the stuff Rob mentioned. All right, so bottom there, you see that Schalke have removed Gazprom logo from their shirts. But guess what? They've removed the logo, but they are keeping the money. They are not cancelling the sponsorship. And Gazprom is still a sponsor for Schalke 04. Let's go to the top. In basketball, Barcelona's basketball team is one of the biggest in Europe. They have cancelled their trip to St. Petersburg in Russia for their crucial Euro Basketball League game against Zenit. That was supposed to be tonight. Now, in chess, the International Chess Federation has cancelled its 2022 Olympiad that was slated for July in Moscow. In Formula One, the Formula One team called Haas has removed the branding of its Russian title sponsor, Uralkali, today for its pre-season testing. Also in Formula One, the FIA, that's the sports governing body, has taken the rather exciting Sochi Grand Prix from the 2022 season grid list. So there will be no games in Sochi. In football, Man United have ended their 10-year, £40 million partnership with Russian state airline Aeroflot. And in football as well, UEFA have moved the Champions League final slated for May 28th from St. Petersburg to Paris. And for the World Cup, Poland, Sweden, and Czech Republic, who all were supposed to play Russia, have requested that their qualifying matches that were supposed to be in Russia should be played elsewhere. Still on Ukraine, and former Ghanaian defender Samuel Nkrumah used to play there. Now, he says he's open to returning to the Ghana Premier League, following in the footsteps of Asamoah Gyan, Suleiman Muntari, and others. This after a decade of last plying his trade in the Ghana Premier League. Of course, the right back made 26 appearances and scored 7 goals for Asante Kotoko between 2008 and 2009.
Well, it's time to check out what's happening in the world of entertainment. Becky.
Hello to you.
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's Friday, and let's start with some gospel related.
Oh, so it's a Gospel Friday.
It's a Gospel Friday.
Right.
We used to go to All Night on Fridays, right? I'll take you this evening. But
you're a good child.
Let's talk about Francis Samoa. So, on the back of a comment that legendary Yaw Sarpong made about not having anything to show after 41 years in the gospel music industry. Right. Francis Samoa says that nowadays, I mean, as compared to the olden days, nowadays the gospel music industry is now a business venture. He spoke to my colleague Ibrahim Bimba. Yeah, that's...
you know, I was judging Shatta Mishi the other time when you came saying, well, she says she does business in church.
Business.
Yeah, I didn't know it was becoming a venture. Yeah, now we're getting to understand her.
Now you know. But let me talk about the new Netflix All African reality show put together, or actually created by one of our own, Peace Hyde. Right. If you haven't seen that, you know, introducing you to something very new.
Created by a Ghanaian?
Created by a Ghanaian.
And what's fascinating is that we don't have a Ghanaian in this.
We don't. I mean, they can have me if they want. I mean,
but we should at least be grateful that a Ghanaian is on this.
Created this one. Right. So, yeah, that'll be all for Showbiz.
Thank you, thanks. And for those of you watching us on Joy Prime, that will be all. We'll return on the Joy News channel with more stories for you. Stay with us. Now, the lack of reliable access to roads in the East Mamprasi municipality of the region is actually forcing many residents to resort to walking and bicycles as the only means of traveling in and out of their communities. Roads across the municipality are in deplorable conditions, with communities connected by poorly maintained footpaths and unpaved routes, making it difficult for vehicles to ply them. Residents living in remote communities, therefore, are having to walk long distances to nearby major population centers to access market centers, health facilities, schools, among other critical social services. Correspondent Ilyasu Tanko traveled to the community of Kolgona, where residents are spending much of their time and effort on transport activities to fulfill basic needs due to the lack of bridge on the road connecting the regional capital.
The Kolgona Road in the northeast region connects parts of the East Mamprasi municipal to the Jinjo district. From Nagbo along the Nalerigu-Bintiri Road, the road runs left into the Kolgona community to Tuna number 1 and 2 and further into deep Konkomba territories. This is the only available road for the hundreds of mainly Konkomba residents living along this stretch. Yet for many years, the bad nature of the road continues to pose a real danger to the lives of the residents here, as well as their socio-economic development. Particularly, the lack of a footbridge over the Kolgona stream, coupled with the poor maintenance of the road, has led to a dysfunctional transport system, as vehicles are no longer able to ply it. As a result, walking and bicycles remain the most frequently used mode of transportation.
The problem is that, you know, there's no car passing the road, and all because of the road is no good. Due to that, you know, that's why they are. So you see, people are always walking on the road, going to the market and things.
These women I met from a funeral ceremony in Kolgona are walking back to Tuna number 2 in the Jinjo district. They tell me this is a normal way of life here, since vehicles are unable to use the road. These communities on this stretch, as a result of the bad nature of the road, are accessible only in the dry season, like this time when motorcycles and tricycles are also used. These motorists expressed their worries and called on the government to develop the road. Normally we deliver at home, except in critical cases where they have to use bicycles to carry you to hospital. But in the rainy season, the stream gets full and the road is always inaccessible. I even lost a pregnant relative last season. She was being taken to Nalerigu while on labor, but died when they could not cross the stream.
The kind of lives that people lost due to this bridge, we can't count them. Because someone is in critical condition, vomiting, running diarrhea. The person needs IV fluids for resuscitation. And because of this, they can't cross. If it's raining season, especially August, September, October, thereabout, they can't cross. So government has to do his best. We are begging on the government to try and do his best to save the people.
Every day woman, they do go there and buy their ingredients. The rain season, the women cannot cross the river. The stranger, those from the Vumpurugu, Yinju, what have you, when they come, they can't cross. Those who come with their car, they can't cross. So he's appealing, if the government of Ghana can even look at our face and come and do the bridge for us.
According to the residents, farming, which is the only thriving economic activity, is also impacted as they are unable to carry their farm produce to market centers, have access to health facilities and other social services that are available only in the urban centers. The residents, while pouring out their frustration, blame the poor nature of the road for the higher levels of poverty, lower school attendance, and worst health outcomes.
This
stream has claimed more than 5 lives just last season. I am a traditional birth attendant, and last season I fell in the water with a newly born baby and her mother while returning from Nalirgu. It took the intervention of some good Samaritans to rescue us. I even broke my leg, so we are appealing to the government to fix the road. Many people have lost their motorbikes here. A number of children have also perished. So we will be grateful if the road is fixed.
When you cross the river in Overside and the rain is falling, your heart is not stable. When you're over there and you have to cross and the rain is falling, you are not stable. So that's what is appealing. If the government of Ghana can do something to our bridge, we will be more happy.
Ilyasu Tanko reporting for Joy News.
Now, Ghana's target of making housing affordable to every citizen may not be achieved if the activities of land guards are not curtailed. This is according to the Ghana Institution of Surveyors. The situation has become a burden for many looking to acquire land, particularly in the national capital Accra, although there is a Land Act 2020 which prescribes a minimum 5-year jail term and a maximum 15-year sentence for persons acting as land guards. It appears not to be deterrent enough. The Ghana Institution of Surveyors says this has contributed to the rising cost of housing. Outgoing president of the institute, Dr. John Amaglo, spoke to Joy News on the sidelines of the 17th anniversary week and 53rd annual general meeting of the Ghana Institution of Surveyors.
If we have our data on any land well documented, the first thing that we are curing is the effect of landguardism, which I would describe as a menace. Because an area will be designed specially taking into consideration the land use. But before we realize, the area will be developed haphazardly. One, the reason is because there is no coordination between the land sector agencies. A situation where a beautiful layout is designed, there is the need to get the data out to the qualified persons who have the training, that is the land surveyors in the first place, to get the data out and go onto the ground and implement the layout as it is on the ground. When that thing is done, the planning department of the municipal assemblies will be in control. They will know where the developments are going and where they are respecting either the roads or some of the open spaces. So we handle data on land haphazardly, not in any coordinated manner. That is the reason why you buy a land and you need the services of a land guard to protect it for you, which is not necessary. It's not necessary. If you are not able to get access to your land, even in the first place, you secure the funds to develop the land. and you're not able to get access to it just because the land is not litigation free. It creates a whole plethora of problems that every member, any member in the general public should be upset. If you have your money and the land is litigation free, you should be able to develop it, and it's affecting everyone in the country as far as housing, infrastructure development is concerned. It's a problem.
The minority in Parliament has cast doubt over the President's comment that the Commander Sugar Factory will be operationalized in April. According to the NDC MPs, government has not made provision for the raw materials, arguing it will be impossible to start operations in April. President Akufo-Addo, addressing delegates from the Commander Traditional Authority, observed that the production of sugar will kickstart in April after the completion of some civil works undertaken by an Indian company. But Deputy Ranking Member on the Trade and Industry Committee, Yusuf Sulemana, challenged government to make public whether raw materials will be generated for the production of sugar.
I was surprised hearing the president saying that by April this year, they would have started operations. The basic question I want to ask is this: start operations with what? When we are told, or we're told, there is no raw material.
But you are saying that, they are refurbishing the company. They are painting, they're getting the machines, oiled and everything.
Yes.
So why are you questioning the president?
So that was the stage we got to when we handed over to them. We had finished with the machinery, the installation and everything. It was just left with continuing the processing. But we were told that there was no raw material, and so they couldn't process. Today, they should tell us where the raw material is. The raw material that the president is saying they will use in April to process, where is it? For 5 years down the line, nothing had happened when it comes to raw material. When it comes to sugarcane, let me tell you, you plant sugarcane and it takes about 9 months, okay, to be ready for harvesting and for processing. They should tell us where they have cultivated it. Let me also tell you that NDC had wanted to use the outgrower scheme. So we're going to harvest the sugarcane from the outgrowers whilst we're doing our own plantation. And that's what we call backward integration. That was the approach that the NDC, and for that matter, John Dramani Mahama had wanted to do. Don't also forget that we had gotten about $24.5 million approved in this parliament, which was supposed to be drawn down in 2017. And that would have been used to supplement or support the outgrowers and also establish the plantation that we were talking about. Now, you have not put any of these things in place. I remember the president criticizing John Dramani Mahama that when it comes to Commander Sugar Factory, that he was behaving like somebody who was building a house in the air. He's doing worse because John Mahama had put in place a plan to provide raw material for Commander Sugar Factory. So you haven't done that. You are giving date that we're going to process in April. That for me is daydreaming.
A 25-year-old SHS graduate at Mamponteng in the Ashanti region recounts how he actually, people including members of his family ridiculed him for venturing into skilled trade, according to Emmanuel Amanfo. Most of his colleagues who also ridiculed him are now university graduates but cannot find jobs. Emmanuel nearly quit the skills trade because of the negative comments he received from people, but now he says he is happy. Joy News' Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
Emmanuel Amanfo is a 25-year-old senior high school graduate from Mamponteng in the Ashanti region. He failed to further his education to the tertiary level, but now makes a living from his established business. Though he was ridiculed by mates for not going to the university, Emmanuel is a happy man now.
Almost all years as a month were fed up. No catch them say, hey,
those I was staying with at Ponkrono had finished SHS and were furthering their education. They were wondering why SHS graduates decided to be an artisan instead of furthering my education. I was punctual at work, but because of continuous ridicule, I got fed up. and stopped going for the training. My master usually called to inquire why I was not coming, but I lied I was sick. Most of those who discouraged me are now university graduates, but unemployed. They now see me as a better person than before. I went through a lot of challenges. Even some of my family members discouraged me, but I stood my grounds and went back to learn. The work is not easy.
Challenges easy.
Emmanuel was a business student at Mpatasia Senior High Technical School. The course perhaps helped him to develop his business idea. Emmanuel began his business 2 years ago. After 5 years of training, he raised 4,000 cedis from the money he received from his master during the 5-year training.
4,000 money started here. By as time goes on,
I started with 4,000 cedis without support from anyone. With time, people buy our items. We get contract from poultry farmers and they order in large quantities. That has helped my business to grow and our income has increased.
He makes coal pot, poultry feeding troughs, trunks among others from materials like used zinc.
Feeding troughs, poultry feeding troughs.
We make coal pots, poultry feeding troughs, bakery materials, trunks and metal tenor. We have people who supply us with the materials. Sometimes, if someone throws his building, we buy the leftovers materials or waste. At times, those who renovate their leaky roofs call us to buy the old materials.
And normally in store so be bonnet down so na se bi car no afre na waste ones ne akoto. Obu won so a otunu dan so abi wa ne dan na rusty leakage bi aba nchense no. In a
good week, Emmanuel can make 3,000 cedis in sales.
Yeah, you manage to deal with orders for the baby. By rough estimate, the week.
We deal with orders from our customers. We can make 3,000 cedis a week, and our profit is between 5,000 and 1,000 Ghana cedis. But sometimes sales can be bad.
So Juma back here by Teddy so a bathroom. I said Juma there on and off woman a bathroom.
The young entrepreneur has 4 apprentices and 3 casual workers, including one of his mates in senior high school. He pays them 50 cedis a day.
And crowd almost Juma 7.
We are 7. 4 are apprentices and 3 casual workers. Today, some of them didn't come. That's why we are few. One of the guys was my SHS mate.
The 25-year-old does not regret the decision to be an artisan. Some mates of Emmanuel are now university graduates. Some have learned trade, while others are still struggling with life.
Yeah, you be share. You 10 pesos. I miss meet me here. AEB. Inti. Almost one year. Almost 1 year. Majumana may and also.
Though Emmanuel would want to further his education, he does not intend to do so now.
I mean, your chance in there, Mekoba. See there.
If I get the opportunity to further my education, I will. But for now, I haven't planned for it. Because after school, you will still have to look for a job. Now, I am focusing on my business.
His major fear is losing his current location. I pray that my business grows and I will be able to establish a factory. Sometimes parents bring their children to be trained, but because of monetary issues among others, we are unable to engage them. For instance, the land isn't mine. If the owner comes, he will evict us. We have been evicted before from a piece of land. We don't have about 100,000 cedis to buy land for the business.
100,000.
Emmanuel feels he has accomplished a great deal in life. Instead of waiting for white-collar jobs, he urges young Ghanaians to buckle up and do something for themselves. In this modern world, you don't have to rely on someone. You don't depend on the government either. Everyone should look for something meaningful to do to plan ahead of the future. Emmanuel could probably keep going for a while on the benefits of learning to be a little more self-sufficient. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Now, as part of efforts to transition to the use of environmentally friendly energy, Ghana's government is committed to exploring the use of natural gas and nuclear energy. The Deputy Energy Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, said this, coupled with other initiatives, will contribute to attaining a net zero future, ensure job security and rapid development. He was speaking at the second National Energy Transition Plan Forum in the Volta Regional Capital.
Ghana is to abandon the use of fossil fuels, which present development opportunities but harmful to the environment, and adopt the use of energy sources that emit low carbon due to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. This informed a decision by the government to constitute the Energy Transition Committee to spearhead the formulation of a framework to guide the country's transition process. The Deputy Energy Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, who is the chairman of the committee, explained that Ghana commits to achieving a net zero future.
And so we as a government have decided that natural gas will continue to be a major part of our energy mix. Natural gas fired power, natural gas supported industry for heating purposes, etc., will be a major part of our energy economy. We even want to adopt other sources which are clean. For example, nuclear energy. Ghana has been making efforts at developing nuclear power. So we think that nuclear is one of the cleanest. Most of the world, Germany, United States of America, Britain, they have relied on nuclear to fire their economy. Then they turn around and say that nuclear is bad. Developing countries shouldn't do it. We want to do it. Even as I speak to you, coal, the UK government has just approved a coal mine project in Cumbria. So you see the hypocrisy in the global politics of energy. And so for Ghana, we think that we do not want to live on an island. We are part of the world. And so let's respond to what the world is asking us to do. But at the same time, let's take into consideration our peculiar circumstances so that we strike the balance that will ensure that we are not outside the globe, but at the same time, we are pursuing steps that will accelerate the development of our country.
The Deputy Director, Nuclear and Alternative Energy at the Energy Ministry, Dr. Robert Sugbadi, outlined objectives set out by the committee.
Some of the objectives that we have set is to make sure that we move gradually to e-mobility, that is using electric vehicles. Also increasing our renewable energy penetration to make sure that we have a lot of renewable energy diluting our energy mix. Also making sure that we improve our energy efficiency and conservation. Now, the next thing also to make sure that we move from liquid fuels to gas. So we are going to use natural gas as a transition fuel. Natural gas in combined cycle, also used as a transition fuel. We are also going to build a nuclear plant in the medium term because nuclear plant is zero emission. Also increase the drive for afforestation. So we are going to plant more trees and make sure that they are going to be a net sink in carbon emission. So once we emit, the trees will absorb.
However, the committee is not limiting its works to the objectives, but is embarking on a nationwide consultative exercise to seek inputs into the National Energy Transition Plan from stakeholders. Speaking at the Stakeholders Forum in Ho, the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Yaolecha, underscored the significance of the engagement.
And I'm aware that as a nation, we are also taking the necessary steps and have adopted the use of some energy sources which are considered climate friendly. An example is the use of solar energy in our national energy sources mix. I'm also aware that government is committed to ensuring we are not taking aback or lag behind in the rapid transition that is occurring in the energy sector of the world. In this regard, our efforts at any transition in the energy sector must be national in nature, where the views and inputs of citizens who would be affected by the transition are taken and considered, as well as factored into any plan that government shall formulate.
The president of the Volta Regional House of Chiefs, Togbe Teprehodo IV, advised authorities to hasten slowly with the transition.
The president said, we must all be fair in the way we handle this matter of a transition. If we stop our oil production now, what's going to happen to us? Considering maybe the investments that we would have made. They have made their profits already. I don't think we should rush into things. Let's take our time, do these things properly, so we achieve a fair and equitable result.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Ho.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. When we return, we'll bring you some business news. But before we bring you business, the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani says they are working to position the institution among the top universities in Africa and beyond in the next decade. According to the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Elvis Asare Bediako, research into areas such as energy, natural resources, health, and technological innovations with the capacity to support national development drives the vision. Speaking at the 10th anniversary launch of the university in Sunyani, Professor Asare Bediako also appealed to the government to help bridge the infrastructural deficit. Precious Semevo has more in this report.
The University of Energy and Natural Resources, UNE, in Sunyani, in the Bono region, established in 2011, has seen its student enrollment grow from 154 in 2012 to over 10,000 in 2022, with academic programs also from 4 to over 40 and 2 other campuses at Domahinkro and Kenyase in the Hafo region. With many remarkable successes after a decade of existence, there remain many challenges frustrating the achievement of the university's vision. At the launch of the university's 10th anniversary celebration, the Vice Chancellor of UNE, Professor Elvis Asare Bediako, said the vision going forward is to be among the top-notch universities in Africa and beyond, with research in their core fields and technological innovations that support national development.
If you're able to develop in technology and innovations that can support national development, and that is something that is dear to my heart. Because in terms of energy, renewable energy, we have a role to play. Now we lack infrastructure, but we are working towards it. We hope government will come to our aid, but we are not only just waiting for government. Within the university, we are also working through IGF, try to come out with some of this infrastructure. We know that by 10 years' time, the University of Energy and Natural Resources will be one of the top universities in Africa, if not in the world. We have a very competent academic staff and administrative staff that are working towards this goal.
Bono Regional Minister Justina Usu-Banahene applauded the university management for the many innovative programs. She, however, wants entrepreneurship programs made compulsory for all students in the school.
I'm also aware of the entrepreneurship program run by this institution. I must say that such is the kind of education that our current youth need so that they can be efficient and functionally useful upon their graduation. I wish to request that, as far as practicable, the institution should make the study of entrepreneurship a compulsory part of this course of study of every student, no matter his or her program of pursuit, so that they can each have a fair idea of how to set themselves up in the job market upon completion of their university education. I wish to assure you of the strong determination of government to work together with the country's tertiary institutions in a bid to find solutions to the many challenges.
On her part, the first Vice-Chancellor of UNE, Professor Esi Ewua, expressed worry over the lack of self-discipline in waste disposal in the country, a situation she said, if not checked, will have serious consequences on food security.
I want to warn this nation that if we continue our careless behavior of throwing plastics anywhere, a time will come that there will be no food. And I pray that we will take a serious effort to discipline ourselves and not throw plastic waste anywhere we want. And I'm happy that you have a cleaning exercise. And I want to challenge the metro or municipal head to make sure that Sunyani is as clean.
The year-long celebration includes public lectures, community engagement, and inter-school quizzes. Precious Semevo, Joy News, Sunyani.
Next is business.
Come to business. The Ministry of Education says it will invest a chunk of its resources in science and technology as well as engineering and mathematics so as to seek the advanced technical and vocational education and training agenda in the country. According to the Deputy Minister of Education, Gifty Chub Ampofo, STEM and TVET have become a core part of the ministry's plan.
Maiden edition of the Invest Forum under the theme Women in TVET, Collaborating for Greater Impact, is to foster collaboration and create an enabling environment for young women in the non-traditional trade areas. Speaking to Joy Business at the event, Deputy Education Minister Gifty Chub Ampofo projected that government is working towards attaining a 60% STEM and 40% humanity.
We are expecting that with the investment we have done at technical universities, they're also going to improve. And in the next 5 years, we expect the ratios of humanities and science and technology at our technical universities to improve. That is, we're trying to work towards 60-40. That is 60 science, technology, and 40 humanities. But as of now, the humanities are higher.
The Executive Director of the National Vocational Training Institute, NVTI, Mausi Nudeko Awuti, encouraged women to venture into the male-dominated space.
In this country where women, there is no restriction, people are being encouraged, especially the young women, to go into the male-dominated vocations. And that is what this project is all about. We all know that the women cannot do it alone. There's a need for collaboration. And I'm happy that we have realized that it's not about equality, but it's about equity.
Meanwhile, the project director for Invest, Apia Boache, observed that women are shying away from TVET, a development her outfit intends to address.
A lot of the research and engagement that we've been having with stakeholders has been on what exactly is the gap? Why are women choosing not to enroll, even if they're given opportunities to be trained, and then when they're trained, they're not taking up those opportunities?
Among the many items experiencing price hikes, fruits are no exception. My colleague Emma Davis visits the Malam Atta market and fills the spotlight on the prices of fruits there. It's the Joy Business shopping list. Take a look.
Forward to a relaxing weekend. I know I am, so I have here a list of fruits I want to get for my smoothie this weekend. Come with me and let's find out how much each fruit costs on the market. Pacho me pe pineapple baku yes.
Pacho 4 cedi, me 3 be ma 10 cedi.
Na eya uko dwa so fan is in bo.
Me pacho e mo kan ma me 3 cedi. Nti me ton me sa 10, me dey 1 cedi. So be to say me sa 5 cedi, any 9 10 cedi. I can see no. Where squash, where courgette. Courgette ne baako 5 cedi na miensa 10 cedi. Carrot na 12 cedi no so me de ma 10 cedi.
Na squash no den ye de.
Pacho ye de fro ye de nkwan ye de bibia. Mango mo 15 na mo 20. Pawpaw no me 5 na miensa 10.
Na de na mango ni bo aye den sa.
Say mango de bi ni okura. We say ye kan ma me 450 Ghana. 1 ton sa enso.
Ube de hu say mango time ni na pawpaw aba na bibi.
Me pacho uba na bebre odwom a utumi hu say ebi wo ho no da ebi ni dwom de a na che say hwan ye den ebi ni ho.
Na no affect prices no.
Na affect prices no. So we 20 cedi. So na 40 cedi.
Kwadu no ye 8 cedi, 7 cedi.
We nyina na 8 cedi so.
We nyina 8 cedi. Watermelon na 40, 30, na 20.
Bo anu sen.
Baako pe. They say watermelon ne bo aye de.
Nka ebi wo hanka ne bo be sen.
Nka 40 de nka 10 cedi. So no kwata ye 10 cedi. 100 ni nyina ye 40 cedi.
Kwata no bo anu sen.
Kwata ne mako 25. Pe no 7 cedi. 5 cedi. Na 4 cedi. Eno so e season ti e ba fofofo. Ende 2 cedi ne 1 cedi nyina wo. Mango no so 10 cedi. And 5 cedi.
Now apple.
Apple dey say no so sa short ye nya.
But anka wo bi anka ba ko yesen.
Oh, first and na ton 2 3 me 5 cedi. Ba say see ya dey o motutum. Nti e ba ye betum.
There you have it. Some of the fruits are out of season, so the prices are quite high. I have my fruits here, ready to make my smoothie. Come with me and let's go make some smoothie. So in case you need ideas on how to prepare a smoothie or make a fruit salad, I'm here to see John, who is the owner of Smoothies Inn, and he's going to take us through various ways of making smoothies or fruit salad.
Making smoothies, people think is very easy. It's actually easy, but it just has a little tricks to it just to make it to get it right. Yes, so that's our base product. That's the banana. The whole concept of using banana actually is because it's full of very good nutrients. It helps you feel fuller. It helps with digestion.
So I have banana, I have pineapple, I have beetroot because of the health benefits. What kind of smoothie can I make with that?
So this is our pink Fanta, and you can tell that I've already bagged the fruits together. This makes it more convenient and faster. So this contains banana, pineapple, pawpaw, and beetroot, as you can see. So we just have to blend this together and we'll get our pink Fanta.
So there you have it. There are various ways to make use of your fruits and not let them go bad. Cheers to a relaxing weekend. My name is Emma Davis, reporting for Joy Business.
And I guess this market survey guides your choice of fruits this weekend. That's how we end business. But we have sports coming next with Gary L. Smith. Do stay with us.
thanks again for joining us for sports. Continuing from where we left off, now that we know that the Champions League final, the Sochi Grand Prix, and many other sporting activities have been taken away from Russia as a result of their invasion of Ukraine, the elephant in the room is, will FIFA be able to send a message to Russia by expelling their national team from next month's final series of crucial 2022 World Cup qualifiers? Well, earlier I spoke to a Ukrainian journalist, Andrew Todos, and this is what he reckons.
Andrew, it will be something, right? Because everybody's now looking at FIFA and wondering if they have the guts to tell Russia to pull out of qualifying for the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I have my doubts, sadly, because of Gianni Infantino's relationship with Vladimir Putin, who during the World Cup in 2018 was, giving his praises. And it shouldn't be forgotten that Vladimir Putin had already occupied Crimea and had started a war in eastern Ukraine in 2014. So, and he still was, and Infantino was still praising Putin in 2018. So sadly, a lot of people have their doubts. However, there's also, I think UEFA might be the more key in this subject. They're saying that they're looking at their Gazprom sponsorship, which sponsors the Champions League, and potentially looking at cancelling that. If they did that, that would be a massive, massive message to Russia. But for the time being, I think a lot of people are sadly disappointed with what we're seeing. Other than that Champions League, with removal, shall we say?
Yeah.
Right. So the earlier interview in the first part of Prime with Rob Harris, and also this one with Andrew Todos, you can watch the full thing tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Here on this channel. And of course, if you wake up early in the morning, you can catch part of it on Sports Review with George Addo Jr. That starts at 7 a.m. Ghana Premier League action now. The second round began today. Kumasi-based King Faisal deep in the woes of struggling Wafa and Sogakope after securing a 2-1 win. Now, Alaji Gruser's boys are now third on the table, 8 points behind leaders Asante Kotoko.
Good ball from Wayu to Osman Ibrahim. Straight to the goalkeeper, but the rebound is in and is the opener. Osman Ibrahim scores the first goal for King Faisal here at the Wafa Park in Sogakope.
The fact that he was still the sharpest after the ricochet, but this pass is brilliant. Just played into a pass where it gives him the time and space to measure your shot. It's going with the
Sansoni Japon's corner. Kredu's header, and he gets the equalizer. Kredu Yadom. The captain rises to the occasion and leads by example. The academy boys are back in business. It's Wafa 1, King Faisal 1.
But again, that was well worked by Wafa. When you look at Kunedu, he was being marked by his own man, and once the ball was coming into the box,
Osman Ibrahim and King Faisal suddenly have the second goal. And good run from Ibrahim Osman and a great finish from Maoliwayo to put King Faisal ahead with 4 minutes to go.
So it's the first of matches this weekend. Let's see the rest, shall we? Week 18 it is. In the Ghana Premier League, Legon City's tomorrow, Heart of Oak, and also Asante Kotoko playing Dreams FC on Sunday. First of the matches on the day, Diana Stars, Kerala United, Brekum Chelsea Gold Stars, Mediama SC, Bichem United, Ash Gold 11 Wonders, and Elmina Sharks, Accra Lions. On Monday, Olympics play RTU. Programs tomorrow. Nathaniel Ato is on the Joy Sports link, where we'll be specializing in all things Ghana Premier League and also the Ukraine matters with the guys that I spoke to. Tomorrow morning, Sports Review with George Addo Jr., 7 a.m. until 8:30. And then 7:30, we'll be playing the full part of the two interviews with my Ukrainian colleagues as well. Stay with us. We have more this weekend. I'm Gary L. Smith.
The Ministry of Gender and Social Protection was created to deal with issues like this. But where is the outrage since this story broke? Why is the Gender Ministry loudly silent? Why has the police remained quiet? We can identify the men who were harming the women, but our state institutions are sleeping on the job. The ministry that is supposed to protect the vulnerable is so orphaned in these times that it needs protection. It is sad that the president, a self-acclaimed human rights campaigner, has allowed the Gender Ministry to become this dormant. I'm laying the blame squarely at his feet because he was the one who appointed the gender minister, who's been on leave for God knows how long. The president also appointed Cecilia Dapaah as caretaker minister following Adwoa Safo's long leave of absence, from which she has still not returned. Cecilia Dapaah has a lot on her plate because the sanitation ministry is also not an easy ministry to manage. There are blatant abuses that should set the ministry working, yet we are greeted with eerie, deafening silence. Now also, this week, we heard that since November 2021, the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, or the LEAP allowances, have not been paid to the beneficiaries, vulnerable people who need money to survive.
2019, up till now, we have noticed that the payments have been delaying. There are times that it delays for like more than 2 months, and already they are supposed to be receiving this support every 2 months, that is bi-monthly. And so it means that when a particular payment cycle delays, it means that the beneficiaries end up getting their support in like 4 months. And what is the amount involved? We are talking about just a 64 Ghana cedi for a beneficiary, a household that has just one beneficiary, a household. So we are saying that you and now agree that in the face of these economic hardships,
well, the Finance Ministry has not released funds. If the Gender Ministry was active, lobbying would have taken place and the vulnerable who need the allowance would have been paid. Is the state saying we cannot take care of the very vulnerable? November, December, January, February, March is just around the corner, and we've not released the LEAP allowances. Now, if Sarah Adwoa Safo cannot serve at the Gender Ministry and prefers to remain outside the country for reasons best known to herself, the ministry must not suffer for this. Only recently, former Chief of Staff under the Kufuor administration, Kojo Mpieni, challenged the president to sack her. Perhaps that may be the way to go and give the opportunity to someone else who is passionate enough to serve the needs of the vulnerable, like the old women branded as witches in the video you saw earlier and beaten, and the very poor looking up to government for their next meal. A nation is measured ultimately by how it treats its most vulnerable citizens. How then will we be measured given how we are treating our vulnerable citizens?
And it's a wrap for Joy News Prime on this Friday. My name is Blessed Ogan. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on all of our running.